Constantly shifting through the time-space continuum, Metron's three disciples observe the universe from the Mobius Couch.
I love a little bitter in the sweet. Bad boy, that's my recipe. Being nice is a little boring when you're in between the sheets. When I ride that hee-haw, you know I know how to please the Mobius Couch. A time-space interdimensional vehicle from which your three hosts oversee the world of comic books, comic book movies, all comic media. Our opening today is, of course, a reference to 2021's Boys, the debut single of Little Mix's Jessie Nelson. We all know and love that song. And importantly, we remember that song because it was a big deal. So that's today's intro.
I mean, bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Mobius Couch. I mentioned comic book movies, and that's apropos because today we're going to talk about Deadpool versus Wolverine, Dawn of Justice. The late. Wish I had known that was coming, but that's fine. Before we get into the details, though, let's introduce your hosts sitting on the Mobius Couch. I'm Alessandro. And joining me today, first up, is, of course, noted critic of Charlie XCX's Pop 2 album, which is regarded by everyone else in the world as the flashpoint of her career. But and I'll introduce you in just a second, but I just wanted to say that if you polled 10 people, and all due respect to Brat, it's like a big debut breakout album. It's got all the memes. It's a Brat summer. But if you polled 10 people and you asked them, what's Charlie XCX's crowning achievement? They would tell you it's the double album release of Number One Angel and Pop 2 in 2017, which showcased her collaboration with PC Music, that whole gang, A.G. Cook, Sophie, etc. However, and I'll get to you in just a second, but I just want to say that someone who disagrees with that is my co-host here, who thinks Charlie is overrated and that her career peaked in 2014 with Boom Clap and The Hook for Fancy, which no one would agree with. And I'll get to you in just a second. And don't you dare edit this out. Don't you dare try to save face and edit any of this out. But my first co-host joining me today is Patrick.
All of that is true. That album was not good. It sounds like a car alarm on repeat. Boom Clap is probably superior to every other song on that album. If you were to ask the layperson who Charlie XCX is and they said no, you would say, do you remember that song Fancy by Iggy Azalea from like 10 years ago? She's the one that sang the hook on it. They'd be like, okay, what about her? And then actually that's not true. Brat, it is a Brat summer. And
it's a Brat.
Somehow Brat has combined with Kamala Harris.
It's going to get Kamala Harris elected. Somehow.
I mean, it clearly is.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I wish Charlie XCX the best. But that album, not for me. Also, this is Patrick, by the way. I don't know if Al introduced me.
I did eventually say Patrick.
I don't know if he did. I think he might have said Patty.
But all right. Well, you just owned up to it, Patrick. So you're on the record. Also joining us is Joe.
Oh, hey.
Hey, Joe.
Hey, how you doing?
Joe doesn't have controversial opinions about Charlie XCX's discography
at all in any way.
So I didn't call him out on it.
If I like a song, I like a song.
Okay, let's get to task because we are talking about Deadpool and Wolverine, the film.
Yes.
Which is now in theaters. This is super topic. This is, of course, Deadpool's introduction into the MCU, coming over from Fox Studios. This is also, as of now, in 5 days, a film that has grossed over $550 million worldwide. So a big old success. Well. Big old success.
I mean, knowing the way theaters are these days, I feel like that's going to have a heavy drop off in week 2, but maybe not.
But even so, Deadpool 1, I think, made $780 million. Mm-hmm. And this made $550 in 5 days. So it's going to crush through.
No,
it's going to crush through.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to be like Avengers Endgame numbers or anything, but it's easily going to get
probably not. Or nor Avatar 2: The Way of Water numbers, which are of course the top 1 and top 3 grossing movie of all time. Which is a movie we all talk about all the time.
Is Way of Water actually top 3?
It's number 3. Yeah, it's behind Avengers Endgame. Yeah.
There's a conspiracy behind that. That makes no sense.
That can't be real.
That makes no
It's very
sense.
real. And look, those are movies
I didn't even watch that. I haven't even watched it at all, let alone in the theater.
Okay, so Deadpool.
Good. I don't understand everyone's obsession with those movies.
Well, it's the event. They're 3D. It's the aura around it.
Stupid.
But okay, Deadpool Wolverine. Let's talk about that. Let's start with overall takes. How did you all feel about Deadpool's intro into the MCU? I'll go first. Let me go first. I'll go first. Let me go first.
Sure.
Can I go first? I'll go first. I enjoyed the hell out of it. I had such a good time. I laughed a lot. And time out. There will be spoilers in this, so if you haven't seen the movie and care about spoilers, don't listen to this podcast. Turn it off.
Oh yeah,
right
I was
now.
gonna say, based on when this episode will be coming out, I'm actually kind of glad we have like a few episodes coming out for it because it allows time for people to go see.
Yeah, but there's definitely going to be spoilers.
But yeah, there's definitely spoilers. So
we have. So if you care about that, don't listen. So we gave that.
But it's good. It's going to take
disclaimer.
To come out
we gave
now.
the disclaimer. So I gotta say, I loved it.
Go.
The fight between Deadpool and Wolverine, loved that. When Deadpool and Wolverine team up to fight all the Deadpools, loved that. This movie did everything I needed it to. I loved it. I thought it was great. Now, having said that, yes, there's no plot. This movie doesn't have any purpose or meaning. I'm fine with it because the purpose and meaning of this movie was those two fight scenes that I just described to you. That's the whole reason this exists. There's no storyline. There's no character development. There's none of that matters. None of that matters. It's just Wolverine being awesome and Deadpool and the fights, and that's all. So I enjoyed it. I loved it. I got exactly what I wanted out of it.
Pretty much similar reaction to Al. Leading into going to see the movie, I kept seeing really terrible reviews by critics, and I was thinking, how do they botch this so fucking bad? And then I saw the movie, and I was like, it delivered exactly what I thought it should deliver. Like, it was great fight choreography. The banter between Deadpool and Wolverine was great. The buddy cop system worked great with those two characters. I thought Emma Corrin as Cassandra Nova was fantastic. I thought she was insane. The jokes, everyone was saying that the Deadpool jokes weren't landing. I thought most of his jokes landed for me. Good movie. It was entertaining. My only regret is that the one time I had to pee was when they meet all the variants of Gambit and Blade and Elektra, and I was in the bathroom when that all happened, so I'm gonna have to rewatch it for that. But yeah, I don't understand the negative reviews. It was a lot of fun. It was a very fun movie, so I enjoyed it.
Okay, not the best Deadpool movie. I liked it. I didn't love it. It was exactly what you said, Patty. It's exactly what it's supposed to be. So I liked it in that regard. I mean, the plot in general is this nebulous thing stitched together with Deadpool jokes that are admittedly awesome and hilarious. And I was laughing so hard at times that I would miss the next Deadpool joke, which would upset me. I was like, what did he just say? Damn it. I missed another joke. Because I was laughing. And I had a lot of fun watching it, but overall, Deadpool 3.
Yeah.
I mean, here's how I would frame what I'm trying to describe. As Al just mentioned, as an introduction into the quote unquote MCU, it was nothing. The MCU had nothing to do with this movie. It was he just happened to be interacting with some of those characters. He's broken that. The X-Men timeline is fucked. There's no structure to it at all anymore, and hasn't been for a while. So the fact Deadpool, even within that, Deadpool is kind of played within a realm that doesn't make any sense. There's cameos from characters that were in the present day that should have been in the 90s. It didn't make any sense. There's stuff like that never bothered me with Deadpool. So the fact that he's in the TVA and dealing with time travel or dimension travel, I guess it's just new. It's just normal Deadpool shit to me. It doesn't really feel like an intro into the MCU, I guess, but.
Well, this felt less of an intro to the MCU. This felt more like a goodbye to Fox. Especially with the end credits and that. I mean, it felt like more of a farewell to Fox than an actual.
The only caveat
intro.
I say I would have is that the fights were simultaneously awesome and boring, sort of, because the stakes weren't there. They're invulnerable.
There are no stakes.
I loved watching them fight, but I like watching Wolverine cut through 30 dudes more than I like watching him fight Deadpool because they're both invincible. But that said, the van fight's amazing and I loved it. So it was just I'm loving this, but I'm also like, yeah, but what's the? It's just like watching two angry dudes like fight it out.
Yeah, but I mean,
Well,
I'm
not
less of
Deadpool. It's watching angry Wolverine fight Deadpool because he's annoyed, knowing that it's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah, and they were also the fights were very CGI heavy, which a lot of times kind of also just the visual impact is a little bit lessened by the fact that it's that
and there's one little
synthetic and fake.
One little caveat I think to the opening scene, which I've always loved the Deadpool opening scenes of him just gratuitous violence and just murdering countless people. Like in the first one was spectacular. I loved that opening credit scene, but like the TVA guys didn't like deserve it. So like it's always been bad guys before.
They're cops. They're cops. Cops are bad guys, dude. Cops are bad guys.
We don't know what they're fucking doing. The whole point of the Loki
we know
series
what they're doing. They're time cops.
They don't know.
They are time.
Fucking like mind wiped every 5 seconds. They have no idea what's going on.
They're time cops. And copyright Jean-Claude Van Damme, but they're time cops. And all cops are bad. All cops are bad. I did one of my favorite part of the opening sequence was when he bounces his katana off the ground and slams into the dude.
You know what's funny? Like the Wolverine bone bit, like it's funny, but like I actually liked it more. That was my favorite part when he bounced the sword. And he's like, I set up to use this, but
I also have to say, and I know that no one on this podcast, including me, is a giant Wolverine fan generally. No. We've talked about in the comics and the shows, not the best. I do have to say, I loved seeing Wolverine for the first time on screen as Wolverine because I know Hugh Jackman's played the character for 20 years. You know, I get that, but it's always been kind of a different filmized version of it. But to see him just in the costume and just brutalizing people with his claws and doing the ground on all fours run and just slashing people, it was so satisfying to just see him be a primal monster killing machine.
About fucking time.
It was wonderful.
And Deadpool literally meta says that in the movie. He's like, that only took 20 fucking years or whatever. Like, and I'm just like, exactly.
And the end, first of all, I could spend 20 minutes just talking about Madonna's Like a Prayer and what that song means to me as a person.
The soundtrack was great.
But I mean, the fight scene to that was just chef's kiss. But also when Wolverine puts his real Wolverine mask on, I was almost scared he wasn't going to do that at that point. Yeah, it was beautiful.
I was like, why didn't they throw that in earlier and just have him take it off for like the rest of the movie until the end again or something? Like,
well, because this was more of a surprise. Yeah, it's just a surprise. There we go.
It was worth the wait, I think.
But I loved it when the bass drops on that Madonna remix and it's just cowl down and they're going to go at it was amazing.
I like that was the moment he was like, oh shit, let's do this now kind of thing. I did like that kind of part of it. Like he was wearing the suit under his clothes and Deadpool took his clothes off, so that's all he had. And then, but it was at the end of the movie finally where he's like, okay, let's suit up. You know, so I do understand that logic of it, but I was just like, just put the fucking mask on. You know, the whole movie basically.
But it was great. I mean, and I thought Hugh Jackman did a good job. I thought he worked great as sort of the straight man to Deadpool in the buddy cop. It was great because he wasn't. He kind of went that line. If he wasn't too serious, like he also would, snap back at Deadpool every once in a while. He wasn't just a completely wooden straight man. Like he had his own zinger. It just worked. It worked really well. I thought they had good kind of buddy chemistry as a team.
The plot was basically opening sequence of violence and death and desecrated corpse and the Bye 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 song.
That's pretty
usual. Then has quit the game and sells cars now with Peter. And then he has a birthday. Then the TVA interrupts it. Logan's dead. He's an anchor being. The Fox universe is unraveling, and then he goes to find a replacement Wolverine, and that's the movie.
Yeah.
So like the whole movie, everything we say after that is an plot. Like it's just a madness after that, which I loved, but like at the same time, like that's basically all you really need is that opening chunk of like logic to get us into the discussion.
Production side note: it wasn't Ryan Reynolds doing the Bye 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 dance. They had a professional.
Yeah,
dancer
I heard. Yeah. That's sad.
So we don't know if Ryan Reynolds is a good dancer
be capable of doing that.
What? How do you? What? What do you know of Ryan Reynolds' professional dance training?
He dances around and other shit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not certain, but all right.
Did this movie ruin Logan for you guys?
I don't give a shit about Logan.
Logan
ruined itself. Logan ruined itself.
Logan was a good movie.
No, Logan was good.
Logan was almost okay. Time out. Logan was almost a good movie, but it was 2.5 hours long and featured him fighting his own clone in the climax. I don't care about any of that. I don't need either of those.
Period of time where Fox, Sony, whatever you want to call it, and Marvel, whatever you want to call it, they were all fighting clones of themselves. Like Iron Man was fighting a big Ironmonger. Every guy was a derivative of the hero. The first 2 phases of Marvel.
But the rest of the movie really set up this idea of biological evolution versus technological. Including what's his name? Boyd Holbrook, that actor who had the metal arm. Like a lot of it was, and how they were extincting mutants. The whole setup was technology versus mutants. And the end of the movie is just, well, here's a clone of you to fight.
I agree.
It was just nonsense. It was nonsense.
But 2 points. I like that Xavier was a piece of shit in that.
He was a piece of shit.
He was
a piece of shit.
Killed the X-Men. He also got that poor innocent family killed because he just insisted on having dinner with them. But at the end, when Logan's dead and Laura is just reciting that line from Shane, I was like, that's a really great. That's the one scene from that movie that I always think about, where it's like she was so isolated.
Logan relationship made that movie.
Perfect. That part was done well. Yeah, that part was done well.
But I really spot on. I loved seeing her in this.
I did too. When she put the glasses on at the end,
that was great.
I was like,
okay.
Also, I liked when she slashed Juggernaut's feet off.
There wasn't enough. Honestly, for me, first of all, I mean, we can talk about all the cameos later.
Let's just jump around.
That was my favorite cameo because I fucking love that character and I thought she was awesome in Logan. So I was like, fuck yes. I knew she was going to be in it. Probably. I was 90% sure she was going to be in the movie. So I wasn't shocked or anything. But when the mystery figure picks them up and puts them in the van and drives off, and then he wakes up and it's not her that walks through the door and it's Elektra, I was like, oh fuck. I was like, wait a minute, she's got to be here. And then when they basically say oh wait, there's one more of us, and he's like, oh, who's left or something, or who else is here? And then she walks out. I was like, I fucking knew it, because the second I saw her boot, I was like, oh, that's X-23. And then when Elektra walked through the door, I was like, oh, it's not. No. That's weird.
But I liked going back to the humor.
That was her foot. That's how sure I was. It was her. I was like, I could swear that was her foot.
Well, but to me, the humor the humor hit. Even going back to Elektra, when they mention all the people that have died in the void, they talk about Daredevil, and she just says oh, don't worry about it. I'm fine. And I love that. That was so funny.
Yeah.
That's probably why she did the movie.
I laughed out loud. Yeah.
You want to come back for? You want to come back for this movie? We're just gonna make you mock Ben Affleck. For 5 minutes.
It was the way she
it was so dismissive. She just dismissively was like, don't worry about it. I'm fine.
Yeah. I'm not.
Scrunched her face up and just shook her head. She's like, nah.
I also love the line because they have, as a real, so the whole movie's meta note after meta note. It's very, all of it's meta contextual. The whole film. There's no plot that isn't meta contextual.
There is no plot
in the movie.
I mean, the plot is he's trying to find another Wolverine for his world.
Sort of, but not really.
It disintegrates.
But they get so meta contextual that they have Channing Tatum play Gambit, who never played Gambit before, but was in talks to play Gambit in a movie that was shelved, but he plays Gambit in this.
Gambit.
Oh, but that's what I mean. One of my favorite jokes was, so he does this terrible Bayou accent as a wink wink Gambit thing. And one of Deadpool's lines is is your voice coach the Minions or something like that? And I laughed at that, because it's just terrible. Bayou, whatever.
Channing Tatum as Gambit was hands down my favorite. I didn't know anything about it, so when he showed up, I was like, what the fuck? And I thought he made the movie for me, and his action scenes were great. But
no, he used his powers great. I liked how he did the. Did you all ever watch Fist of the North Star?
Powers well, yes.
Yes. So Fist of the North Star. The big thing is the Hokuto martial art. You hit pressure points, and then blood builds up, and the people explode. Right. Yeah. And the famous line is he goes, "Omae wa mou shinderu," which means you're already dead. because he like hits the dudes, and that Gambit did that. He would like throw his cards into people, and then they'd explode in like a Fist of the North Star kind of delayed explosion. I thought that was very cool.
I thought he felt a little blocky, and the costume was kind of hokey, and I don't know. And it didn't it didn't work for me very well.
I just feel like the costume was a parody of.
Yeah, no, he's 100% parody. 100%. Yeah.
Like even the way he was.
I wish they had like taken that one bit seriously. Weirdly, I guess is what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean? Like, even giving us like a glimpse of to what a Gambit movie with him would have been.
No, the whole movie's a joke.
I don't think they did that at all. They just made it a big joke, and I guess that's
the
why
whole
I'm
movie's
like,
a joke.
Kind of mad.
I liked that it was a joke because he does have good comedic timing, and when they're all talking about like, "I'm ready, I was born ready," and he was like, "I was ready when I came into my dad's penis and the balls deep in my mama," and I was, it's like, what is happening?
That was hilarious.
Yeah, and I do.
That was like
given
that was like a what 21 Jump Street kind of change.
Yeah, and another character in that same Rebel group loved Wesley Snipes back as Blade. That was so much fun because I have a weird. I don't want to say that the Blade movies are good movies because I know that they're. I know intellectually, I know that they're not, but they have a special place in my heart. I kind of enjoy all three of them as
they're
sort of silly of the times action movies.
They're decent movies for what they were.
But it was fun seeing Wesley
they
Snipes.
Made 3 Blade movies in general.
But here's okay.
That was the time of Black Leather and The Matrix, though. So of course he's the superhero.
Production side note: the reason he got the role of Wade Wilson in X-Men Origins Wolverine is because the writer of X-Men Origins Wolverine, David S. Goyer, was the director of Blade Trinity. And he was writing X-Men Origins Wolverine while directing Blade Trinity. And he was talking to Ryan Reynolds and basically said, "Hey, dude, your character in this movie is Deadpool. Like, you should read these comics and be this character because the wisecracking mercenary is that." So that's what got Ryan Reynolds into Deadpool. And he got him casted as Deadpool in X-Men Origins Wolverine, which, was not a great movie for many reasons.
No, but I feel like that scene with Deadpool was the best scene of the entire movie.
Where he's a mute who shoots laser beam? No, the 3 Mile Island?
No, the intro beat when he comes.
The intro bits were the best. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. When he was actually Deadpool and had 2 swords, and even though he wasn't in the costume, he acted like Deadpool. Yes, I agree.
Yeah, but I thought that was an interesting side note. Is that actually Ryan Reynolds didn't really know about Deadpool until the director of Blade Trinity that he was working on kind of said, "Hey, check this stuff out. I think you'd be good at it in my movies." And the Deadpool, so X-Men Origins Wolverine was meant to catapult Deadpool into his own movie, which didn't happen because that movie didn't perform so well. And so the Deadpool film kind of got into production hell until 2016 when it finally came, about 8 years after X-Men Origins Wolverine when it finally came out.
What did you guys think about the other cameos in general? Just like Johnny Storm.
Logan.
I love Johnny Storm was great. Love that. Love the bait and switch with Chris Evans. You're thinking Captain America, but then he's Johnny Storm was great.
Did you think it was Captain America?
I didn't. I thought, I didn't know it was going to be Johnny Storm, but I knew it was going to be a joke because they were telegraphing it.
But I was like, is it going to be somebody else with his voice and it's not it's not him or something? Yeah. Like I was like, either he's not in the movie and they're just fucking with us with his voice somehow, or
I knew it wasn't going to be MCU Cap. Yeah,
I know what it is. Like, and I was like, I know what this is.
No, they just seem to be telegraphing it too much with Deadpool. I knew it wasn't going to be MCU Cap. I didn't know it was going to be Johnny Storm.
The movie, I thought it was like in the movie, like they cover up his top, right? And he's got the wrap around him, and it's navy blue, so it's kind of like Cap or Johnny Storm colors, kind of thing. But I could be wrong, but I feel like his pants were pretty close to like Cap pants versus like Johnny Storm tights.
They were baggy military.
I think they were like
pants,
extra trying. Yeah, I think they were extra trying to be like, what about? And they just had his top covered up with the shawl thing or the hood thing, to like fuck with you even further, which is pretty smart because like that way everybody would be like, oh fuck, it's Cap. Even I love that Deadpool was just like, oh shit, "Oh, get ready! This is gonna be out." He's like all excited and hopping around, and Wolverine's like, "Who?" And he's like, "Don't worry about it. He's gonna say it." Like kind of. And it was.
I also another cool Wolverine moment I loved in that. So in that point in time when we're talking about kind of Mad Max Raiders arrive to corral Wolverine and Deadpool, and one of them is Sabretooth from the original X-Men film.
Yeah, played
by Tyler Mane. Another production note.
So but did you like that, or would you rather have seen the other Sabretooth?
I liked it.
Okay. But I loved how they squared up to fight and they run at each other, and Wolverine does the kind of samurai, just a quick slash, and then the delayed head, rolls off and he's dead.
Great. Yeah,
and then I love Deadpool's gag about Furiosa. Like, here's your General Furiosa. It was hilarious.
Like, that was great. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, so they're in the void at that point, so it is very like Mad Max world kind of vibe. Even when they drive up, it's like they're in all these weird cars. One of them is the Fantastic Four floating car, which I thought was kind of funny.
While we're on the Fantastic Four and Johnny Storm, the post-credit scene, I think that was the best post-credit scene of any MCU movie.
Oh, I thought it was.
Oh, the plot twist that Johnny Storm did talk shit about Cassandra Nova.
Yeah. The way that Chris Evans was able to execute all those lines, like the way he said it, it was just like it was like some of the best
and like at
acting
the time,
I've ever
Deadpool's
seen Chris
like,
Evans do.
He said this about you and this, and he's like, no, and like Logan's like, you're gonna get this kid killed, and you're like, what's that? Why is he doing this? And he's like, I'm just being honest with you. These are the words that are coming out of his mouth, and like just everything about that scene was so perfectly set up.
In the moment in the film, in the moment in the film, basically the setup is it seems like Deadpool is framing Johnny to die by feeding him lines about Cassandra Nova.
Yeah,
but then in the end credit scenes, it turns out he did technically say all that.
Well, ultimately, Deadpool's Deadpool, and he's going to look out for himself. So, like, what he's doing is like he was deflecting towards Johnny, but it was rightfully so.
Yeah,
I guess.
Well, can we talk about? I want to talk about
it's rightfully so until after the credits have rolled.
Well, just because we just mentioned, I want to talk about Cassandra Nova. I loved Cassandra Nova in this. Right, Patrick Emma Corrin, you mentioned, who played Diana in one of the Crown seasons, is Diana. Emma Corrin. She was awesome. I loved. She physically kind of had James McAvoy-esque features, like with her eye, and I thought, and it works because they're twins. So I thought, physically that worked. And B, I just loved all her mannerisms. How she would kind of stand with her heels together, like in a faux military attention pose. Yeah. It was just very comic Cassandra Nova in how she physically articulated and acted the role. Having said that, in the comic, Cassandra Nova's an old woman, and in this, she's a hot 28-year-old, but whatever.
Yeah, I didn't mind. Did you care that she was young?
I didn't mind. Well, you're asking me if I mind. One thing the listeners of this podcast know is that I like them who can destroy me. If they can physically or mentally wreak havoc upon me, that's all I need in a woman.
I loved her too.
Cassandra Nova,
I thought her motivations were a little odd.
Well, but don't worry about plot. I mean, none of the plot.
Well, I thought the motivations were perfect because people were bitching about her being the villain and having like a plan, but she didn't really have a plan. Like in the comics, she just destroys shit. And there's the point. There's the point where they have the Juggernaut.
She's just a fucking survivor. Yeah.
Well, they have the Juggernaut's helmet on her, and they're like, we're going to release you, but we need you to help us. And she's like, as soon as you release me, I'm going to kill you. They're like, well, then we're going to kill you. And she's like, does it? And then Deadpool at one point is like, why are you like this? And she's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, that's exactly what Cassandra Nova is.
Right, I did. So, 2 points on that. First point is I loved that Wolverine turn, though, where he kind of decided, you know what, at a certain point we have to either be heroes or not, so let her free. I did like that for Wolverine's character. And B, back to Cassandra Nova, loved her hand mind rapes. Where her hand,
that was
because it's from the comic. She sticks her fingers into your head.
I don't have a good shot of that. This is the only thing I have, but for people,
but I loved it. Because again, it happens in.
I'll agree. That's our favorite shit about Cassandra.
Because it happens in
the fingers through the head.
Because she was introduced in Morrison and Quietly's New X-Men, which we've covered. And please, if you subscribe to this podcast, listen to that episode. But it happens there, and it's just so cool to see in real life just her fingers snake through
so
people's heads.
It's so much worse in real life.
Yes.
And for you, well, I was just gonna say for you big comic book nerds, like we're aware that in the comics she just did that to kill the guy. But I thought it was an interesting twist to take.
Oh yeah, I love that.
Yeah, it's a visual reference. Yeah, it's an aesthetic homage.
There's certain changes to characters from comic books for film that just make sense, and that's one of them. Like, I like little things like that. Like, hey, let's put a reason behind the fact that she's jamming her fingers into people's brains. Like, she has to jam her hand into your brain to fuck with your mind. Like, I love that. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, and it kind of put like a limit on her.
Man, the way, like, what's his name from the Rich show, Succession? Yeah. Thank you. That guy. Tom Wombat. Gan?
God, why don't I know?
Are you talking about the TVA guy? The evil TVA
guy. When she jammed her hand into his head, and then he just crumpled, and she drug his body down the stairs. First of all, it looked super fake in CGI, but it was amazing. That she was just dragging his limp body down the stairs.
All her power use, the way she killed Johnny Storm, she literally with her hand just does this, and his skin comes off.
She just like did a puppet hand, and then his skin and
the whole, he buries Wolverine underground and just kind of groundhog drags him around. I mean, it's just great use of power.
Confronting her, like and it's in the trailers, but the fingers up, fingers down thing with the claw, like I fucking love that. Just like whoop, whoop.
In that fight, he does it. Remember, we just did X-Men 97 where he backstabs Magneto with both hands from the back, and he does that to Cassandra Nova. Yeah. He kind of surprise backstabs her and lifts her up. I don't know. I guess they're not references to each other because they came out at the same time. But I just thought it was an interesting. He kills two. He doesn't kill, but attacks two people.
Yeah,
similarly.
They must have been filming while they were drawing that. Probably
in both ways.
No connection there.
One complaint I did have, and not to expect too much from this movie, because again, there wasn't much of a plot. It was a lot of fanfare and gimmicks. But this Wolverine is supposed to be the worst Wolverine in the entire multiverse, and I kept waiting to find out
part 2
why he was the worst, and it's revealed
because he left them because he didn't want to be with them, and they all died when he wasn't there.
Patrick, I have a theory. I have a theory about this.
But no, am I wrong? He went out.
No, you're right. You're
drunk, and that one night when he wasn't at the mansion, the humans came and killed all the X-Men.
And no, he mentions it. He mentions it something along the lines of, it wasn't just that he was gone and drunk. It was that
he killed a bunch of people after
for him and asking for him to come help them, and he didn't. Number one, with the weird stone walking by the weird lost fence. I don't know what that was. Anyway, Alessandro was fucking with him. Like he left them, yes, to do that, but like there was like I guess he said something like. It sounded like he said, like, maybe Jean was calling him telepathically. Like, they were basically like, we need your help, come back. And he's like,
But he did come back, and they were already dead.
The main point is, what they say is he came back, and then he basically killed a bunch of innocent people in anger, is what they say.
Okay.
He said, it said he turned his war on the humans and just kept killing them, whether they were good or bad.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Patrick, you're correct. It's not, quote-unquote, that bad or whatever. Yeah. What they should have done is the actual Old Man Logan comic where he killed the X-Men under somebody's sway. That's what they should have done. That would have been
that. Because why did the bartender at the bar even know that he was a piece of shit? Like who? Like did humans?
That means he's murdered like countless human beings, good or bad, and that bartender is like, have a beer, I guess you're paying. To my point, I feel like the Wolverine plot or character arc is exactly the same as Logan. It's basically just Logan Part 2. Like, he literally has Laura tell him what Logan did in her timeline and became a hero again. And then he does it just like that. Like, we're literally watching the same arc with Wolverine that we saw in Logan.
But like, the other thing...
I'm a piece of shit. I've given up. I don't want to be a hero anymore. Fuck off, fuck off, fuck off. And then Laura is like, hey, this is what you should be, and this is who you should be, and who you are. And he changes and becomes that person. And then, and so on and so on, And I'm like, and in that, Professor Xavier murdered all the X-Men, and he kept them alive and took care of them. It's the same fucking shit from this movie. It's just like that no one survived this time, and it was by himself. It's the only difference. I agree, you guys. They should have made it way darker.
But here's my theory: is that it's Hugh Jackman, because you know how a lot of times stars make demands of films, like famously in Fast and the Furious, neither The Rock nor Vin Diesel can ever lose a fight they're in. I'm not kidding. That's an actual contractual.
It's just Fast or
thing.
Furious.
So I think Hugh Jackman basically said it can't be that bad. I can't have killed the X-Men or did anything truly terrible because I'm Hugh Jackman and I'm not. My character isn't going to do something that irredeemable.
Irredeemable.
Yeah. So I think that's why they made it like you were just out. You were gone fishing while everybody died, and that was your crime. I think it was Hugh Jackman's camp.
Also, I have a question for you, just like timeline wise, and I know this is folly to even try to make this make sense, but
it's folly. Yeah.
When the world he's in, is that his original world?
Yeah.
Deadpool, I mean. Like with his friends all alive and
yes.
Yeah,
that's his world.
Yeah.
But Vanessa didn't die.
Vanessa
No, she survived.
Time traveled and stopped it.
So
right?
In Deadpool 2, at the end, she's alive. Yeah.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So where we pick up is still his same world. It's just time travel changed it, and he's still in the same. He didn't dimension travel like the TVA style, like he was doing.
He did dimension travel though.
Well, the TVA does time stream travel.
Well, no, what happened?
But they can go to different timelines.
But they can also go back and forth within the same timeline.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
After Deadpool 2, he got Cable's time traveling dimension hopping thing. Mm-hmm. He went to the sacred timeline.
So, but he was just moving through time, though.
No, that was a different timeline.
No, the sacred timeline was a different timeline because he went to the prime timeline too.
So he went to the prime timeline to audition for the Avengers, and Happy was like, "You're not going to make the cut." And then he went back to his time to sell cars with Rob Delaney or whatever.
Yeah.
So it was confusing, and I only know that because I read the Wikipedia page.
All right, that's one little piece that I was missing.
I thought it was pretty clear.
Is his world I
thought the same thing.
When
I watched the movie, I was like, the Avengers exist in the same world as Deadpool?
Yeah, I was
they don't. They specifically say sacred timeline when he's interviewing with Happy because he specifically went to the time.
But they didn't clarify that he used Cables. I'm like, how did he get to the fucking sacred?
Well, he says that later in the TVA. He says, "Is this because I used Cables thing?"
Timeline that he's in, his world that he's on, has Wolverine, because Wolverine doesn't die until he's old.
Can I stop? We should stop this.
No.
Why are we talking about plot points of Deadpool and Wolverine?
Just get Wolverine right now.
Because
in the current time, you're gonna die in 5 years. I need you.
Because it's the movie. Don't think about the plot.
Also, all right. If you're anchored,
so is Logan a separate timeline from the rest of the Fox universe that he's in?
No, it's the same timeline. It's just later in the timeline.
Logan is apparently the same timeline as Deadpool, but it's not the same. I think that's where it gets confusing. The Logan is not the same Logan from the other Fox X-Men movies. That's a different.
So how is it the same timeline? Logan and X-23 are from a separate Fox.
Logan and X-23 and Deadpool all live in one timeline.
Yes.
And X-Men, X2, and X3, those are all different.
Oh, yes. Okay, right. Yeah.
Oh,
that's true. Right. Yeah, I got you.
Again,
anyway, so here's my ultimate question. Now that you've clarified all these notes, here's my ultimate question. At the very end of the movie, he's like, Logan, and he doesn't leave, and he turns around and he comes back to his house, and he's hanging out with all the people. Maybe Colossus is even there. Why is he not immediately running to the X-Men mansion to be like, I missed you, I love you? Why would he just be like, all right,
he's a loner. Dude, Logan's a loner.
His whole story arc is that his X-Men got murdered because he wasn't there. Do you think he's going to spend 1 minute away from them?
Well, but is there a Logan alive in that timeline separately? Because if they touch, then the universe would explode because the same matter can't exist in multiple.
Again, just my overall point on this, I did enjoy this movie, but I swear to God, and this is where we can talk about the Robert goddamn Downey Jr. Dr. Doom shit. I
Let's not talk about that.
If the MCU is going in this direction where every movie is about variants and different timelines, and every movie is like infinite,
I don't think they are. I don't think they are because they're moving away from the Kang. But so because the MCU is moving out of the Kang shit, I think they're going to be moving away from this whole.
No, this is the
multiverse
saga.
timeline.
They're calling it the multiverse saga, Al. The next movies are still going to be all multiverse based.
But that was all Kang based. It might be lighter versions of that. I mean,
I don't think so. They're culminating with Doomsday, with Doctor Doom and Robert Downey Jr. and Secret Wars, which is a Doctor Doom thing.
I don't know.
And it's all a fucking multiverse thing, dude. This whole
dumb.
fucking thing, including the Fantastic Four and all the shit that they're doing, is all multiverse bullshit.
It just takes away the stakes of everything.
Well, there are no stakes.
I agree.
Yeah,
there are
no
stakes. I thought it was
and I do want to make the point that for Deadpool 3, that doesn't matter because that's fine. This is a comedy, and that the whole thing is
agree with you on that one.
That it's 2 hours of meta contextualized nonsense works for this. But if this is Avengers 5 or whatever, that's trouble. Because those movies shouldn't be.
I'm not saying
this.
The Avengers 5 might not be more grounded or whatever, but Avengers 6 being Secret Wars is definitely going to be like
They need to dump. Yeah, they need help. They need help because again,
that's going to be that's the point though. It's going to be the consolidation of all that shit, so they can move on after that. I realize that Robert Downey Jr. is an actor and multifaceted and could do different roles. But he's fucking iconic as Iron Man. The dumbest and worst idea ever to bring him in as.
Well, it's desperate. I mean, Joe, it's desperate,
and it just reeks of desperation and a money grab.
Desperate.
Yeah, it's horrible. I think it's the worst idea.
I'm sure in movie they'll justify it by probably what we mentioned. Earth 69 Doctor Doom is Tony Stark, and so that's what's Robert Downey Jr.
Whether it's actually Victor Von Doom and not an evil version of Tony Stark doesn't matter because the audience will immediately identify with him as Tony Stark. So
but he will be Tony Stark. They're definitely going to.
Victor Von Doom is just an evil version of Tony Stark.
They're definitely going to make him
belittling the character of Dr. Doom.
They're making another. They're going to make him another universe as Tony Stark. But 100%, they're going to have to.
It's fucking dumb. Bringing Robert Downey Jr. back doesn't solve your fucking $1 billion movie problem.
I mean,
it does to producers because Joe, 80-year-old producers don't understand what comics are. They understand what Robert Downey Jr. is. And they understand that bringing in their cash cow will make more money. That's all they get. So.
Oh, by the way, Peter was great in this movie, and I'm really sad at the lack of Dopinder. He was fantastic.
Fucking Rob Delaney's up on the screen right now.
I liked Peter. Oh, Patrick.
Peter was great. That's what I'm saying.
Patrick.
Peter took from Deadpool 2 his little tiny bit of screen time he got, and was so fucking great in this movie. And Dopinder kind of did the same thing from 1 to 2. So I kind of understand the handoff from
he was great,
funny side character to another.
Pat, how do you feel about the nipple ring? How do you feel about the nipple ring connecting to the
it was hilarious
belly button ring?
That's the best part because what does he say when someone pulls on the chain?
He just goes, "Oh!"
He goes,
and they're like,
"That's the best part."
No, that's the best part.
No, Rob Delaney is. Oh my god,
it was great. It was great. But Patrick, we've got to do time out. Let's talk daddy rankings because we've got
whatever the upper ranking is. Like Rob Delaney is like.
Are we?
Well, but how do we feel? How do we feel about? But how do we feel about Hugh Jackman? Because at the end, there's a scene where he's shirtless.
That's called the Snyder
costume
Zoo scale,
breaks off.
That's
and
the Snyder Zoo scale.
No, that's later. Right now, we're talking daddy rankings. We'll come back to the
right.
Snyder Zoo scale.
In my opinion,
what's the antithesis of the daddy ranking, Al?
The mommy ranking?
How big are their thighs?
If we're talking my rankings, yes, the Chun-Li thighs or Cassandra Nova mind crushing my face between their legs is either one. I'll take either one. But Patrick, daddy rankings. How do we? Yeah, well, let's talk Hugh Jackman. How do we feel about that final scene where? So final scene, Hugh Jackman and Deadpool hold hands and they connect antimatter with matter to save the universe. And as that's happening, the force of that connection breaks off Wolverine's costume, and we see his pecs and abs. It's all.
It's.
I love that the mask stays on in that scene, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Hugh Jackman is a specimen. I mean, I will say that the guy's if he's truly natural and he's not doing any steroids,
He can't
that's
be. It's
fucking
impossible,
insane.
right? At that age to look like that, there has to be something.
Yeah, who knows what kind of access? You know, I love that he might not be on steroids, but he's on some other experimental FDA not approved drug that isn't a steroid. But I don't know. Like,
I don't
but
know.
he
Is it real? Like when you get that big and ripped when you're like 30, is it really that hard? And you maintain it over however many Wolverine movies and X-Men movies?
Yes.
It's definitely. He's 50, right? Isn't he about 50? He's 55. He's exactly 55.
Yeah.
I was off.
I mean, I
that's not a natural. I don't know how a 55-year-old could naturally look like that. But one comment I'll make is
like,
in
isn't
his.
It easy to kind of just stack muscle on muscle when you just keep working.
How easy is it for you, Joe?
He doesn't have a normal job.
Well, I think,
Joe, look in the fucking mirror, bro. How easy is it for you to keep stacked like that?
Well, I don't fucking do it. That's
to Joe's point. Like the character of Wolverine very much became
part of his life for
physique,
like 15
right? Like
years. Yeah.
Well, even if you look at the first X-Men movie, the shape he was in X-Men 1 is like
nothing.
He looks like he's a normal dude, basically.
Yeah,
he's a big guy, but that was kind of before they were doing the whole like ripped thing for every superhero movie.
So he's probably, but he's, you know, his diet is probably crazy. He probably worked out 3 times a day. I don't know. He doesn't look crazy though. I don't know. I mean, he doesn't look crazy as
he doesn't look like The Rock or something, which is like an insane mass. Yeah.
It could be that he, to Joe's point, like muscle memory, he's been working out like a maniac for these movies for the last
for 20 fucking years.
25 years.
I mean,
I've got to say though,
20 fucking years.
I was surprised because in the yellow costume, he looks a little thick. You know?
Yeah, and also and in a weird note. But like Deadpool's costume hugs his body very like well, you know, like
that's from
head to toe.
That's
but like no, I mean like literally like just like his pants are tight. Let's put it that way. So like when Wolverine was like running around, like he had like I don't know an extra foot of spandex, you know, in the crotch region, and that, you know, like he had like a lot of let me find a fucking picture of
well, he's got it looked like his midsection cover was hard. It looked like kind of a hard exoskeleton cover.
Here's a good one. Look at like how much room he has in his pants, like compared to like Deadpool. Like it's like Deadpool's is like up his ass, and Wolverine has like baggier pants on, I guess.
Yeah, but anyway, I just mean to say
in general is just bulkier, is what I'm saying.
Well, I just mean to say I was surprised because the costume's kind of bulky, but then when it came off, he was pretty like he looked pretty lean, you know. And
I think he's got more like padding and like shit on his costume.
But so, Pat, Rob Delaney over Hugh Jackman on the daddy scale, or how would you rank it?
Well, what is the daddy scale exactly?
I don't know. You tell me.
What are you talking?
You tell me, bro.
Make up a scale and tell me a number.
Hugh Jackman is very traditionally handsome, and he's.
It sounds like a Rob Delaney win. That sounds like the preface to a Rob Delaney win.
It's Rob Delaney. I can't. It's Rob Delaney all day, every day since. Yes, like Rob Delaney. What are you talking about?
No, I'm not talking about anything. That sounds right. Okay, I think we have an answer.
I love that Hugh Jackman. In theory, he's that ripped when that shirt comes off, and that's not 80% CGI. But like. That doesn't compare to fucking Rob Delaney. It's my favorite.
I will take Rob Delaney in his Deadpool suit with the moose knuckle over Wolverine.
I love, by the way, they mentioned that so early on. So like when he's selling, when Deadpool's selling cars and he's hanging out with Peter, and Peter has his old suit in his locker. He's like, "What are you doing? What are you doing with that in your locker?" And he's like, just in case you need it, you know. And I love that's like classic movie scenario where like they show you something in the very beginning of the movie,
then it comes back.
The end of the movie, there's a million Deadpools, and then he's like, "Hey, I'm one of them." And I'm like, "You could have gotten murdered. They were killing all of those Deadpools." Like,
all right, but so we have Rob Delaney is the daddy scale. But Patrick, I gotta say I respect it because if you asked me, you know, Charlize Theron, for example, classically beautiful woman. Would I prefer any member of the U.S. national women's rugby team? Yes.
Holy shit.
But, you know, Charlize Theron is technically more attractive. So I get what you mean with the daddy scale.
Yeah.
That's all that is to say.
when I was a teenager, Hugh Jackman, I think, would have really done it
Just for the
me,
viewers, while we're recording this,
Yeah.
the U.S. is in the Olympics right now with every other country, and Deadpool just came out. But you won't be hearing this for at least a month. So.
Also, we're gonna edit. We're editing all of this out.
No, we're not. We're keeping all. This is all
no.
gold.
Okay.
This is gold.
I was just gonna say what I learned on Hot Ones is that the original idea for Deadpool.
Oh yeah, let's talk about that. That's a good pivot.
Was to make it a buddy cop movie called like Armor Cops or something, Alpha Cop, and make it like a kind of cheesy, almost 90s action type thing, and make fake teasers and everything. And then they were
gonna like make 10 minutes of a movie. It was gonna be like 10 minutes of the movie.
Well,
I thought it was like, and then when you went to go see Alpha Cop, Deadpool Wolverine would start playing.
No, it was 5 minutes of Alpha Cop, 5 to 10 minutes of a fucking Alpha Cop movie, and then it just stops, and then Deadpool.
Oh,
well, another thing I read,
fucking insane, and I love it. But when he said it never would have worked, someone would have found out and would have ruined the whole thing. I completely agree.
Yeah,
and that's the only reason I would have said not to do that. But like that is the best fucking idea I've ever heard in my life, and I love that idea.
Well,
oh, that's so brilliant.
Well, a production note I found interesting was I assumed Ryan Reynolds reached out to Hugh Jackman to do this, but it was the opposite. Hugh Jackman called Ryan Reynolds and said, "I want to do a Wolverine movie with you, kind of like 48 Hours as sort of a buddy cop movie of the two of us."
Again, in that Hot Ones interview, I don't know if that's where you're getting that information out, but like he mentioned it in the sense that he had just done Logan and he had just announced his retirement as Wolverine and he never wanted to come back, blah, blah, blah. And then like that weekend or something, Deadpool 1 came out and he went, son of a bitch. Like that, like at that moment, he was like, that would work so well. So basically, this has been in Hugh Jackman's head for like since Deadpool 1 came out. We could do this movie together and it would be so great, blah, blah, blah.
Or did Hugh Jackman see Deadpool 1 and think Ryan Reynolds is a handsome man and I want to get closer to him?
That's also what happened. Because going back,
Patrick, on the record.
Going back to that Hot Ones interview, like Hugh's got a little bit of a crush on Ryan, and Ryan was kind of like, Hugh, tone it back. Like we're here doing an interview. Stop, don't put so much attention on me, Hugh. Put some attention on the guy who's interviewing us. It was like jealous boyfriend vibes, being like, "Hey, babe, who's this? Who are you talking to? Who's this guy?
Who are you talking to? Why are you talking to him so much?"
Hey, babe, remember that one time? Just you and me did that one thing? Oh my god.
Hugh wasn't answering any questions. It was just Ryan, and everything Hugh was just saying was like, "Oh, it's really hot. That's my lips." And he was just interrupting with how hot the hot sauce was.
Okay, so
I was like, anyway, back to the movie. But it was a very funny interview. I suggest.
Okay. Regardless of Hugh Jackman's feelings for Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman was the one who brought up the idea of this team. For
so
movie.
On that note, we haven't talked about the Wolverine cameos in the beginning when Deadpool's trying to find a bunch of Wolverines.
Yeah, there's a montage of different Wolverines.
Yeah.
How did you guys like the cavalry? Did you like the cavalry?
The human brain, I don't know how it works. I've flipped on Cavill. I'm like, I don't want to see this man anymore. I don't know.
Well, can we talk? All right. Speaking of men's bodies, which we've been talking about for the past 20 minutes, Henry Cavill has a weird body.
He does. I agree.
He has like an overly large. He has tiny arms and like a too big core, right? Like his
I think
trunk is too big and his arms are too small, right?
I think it's just the arms. I think it's the illusion that the arms create. I think his
but
arms
they're
are
tiny. They're
shorter.
tiny compared to his.
You know how like most people do like spread their arms and it's basically like equivalent to your height. I feel like his arms are like, I don't know, a good 6 inches shorter.
But also the cavalry
kind of thing. It's not like a lot, but it's enough to like visually throw off how he looks.
But also if you'll notice
angles.
If you'll notice the cavalry had the usual white tank top,
white wife beater, yeah.
But it was untucked and like baggy and not like what's he hiding? Is he out of shape?
People were fan casting him as Wolverine to replace Hugh Jackman, and I think they just threw it in as a dumb joke.
I don't know. He's strange.
I think that's all it should be, and I don't think it looked good. I didn't like it. Also, Wolverine doesn't have super strength. He like punched Deadpool like through a cement block. Like I'm like, are you Superman? I don't understand.
But the Jackman Wolverine also punches a guy through a wall later.
I mean, I guess technically there's a little skeleton in there, so I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. And there's weight behind that. And I know it's not like he's weak. Like his muscles are.
But what about we also got a tiny Reen? We had a little tiny Reen.
What did you think about Tiny Wolverine?
He was.
It's kind of in the comic. He's a short.
It was
man,
funny,
so
but he was too short. It was probably like physically accurate to like his actual height. I think he's supposed to be like 5'3" in the comics. No one fucking draws him like that. But like, he's more like 5'7". I think the way most people draw him, like compared to like a 6-foot Cyclops, he'd be like 5'7". I would say.
You think Cyclops is 6 feet? You think Cyclops is 6 figures, 6 feet 6 inches? That's the Cyclops. You think?
Yeah.
Looking for a man with finance.
I don't know. How tall do you think Cyclops is?
6'5", blue eyes.
That's Cyclops.
Going back to men's physiques, I totally buy. I mean, not buy, but if Hugh Jackman at 55, not on steroids, just on like a killer workout and diet, I believe it. Henry Cavill and Man of Steel, 1,000% on steroids, 100,000%.
Yeah. But also, Henry Cavill, Man of Steel, is also definitely one of those where he didn't eat or drink water for 2 days before the 2-day shoot where he didn't have a shirt on. Basically,
right. Well, he's talked about doing that in the past with Wolverine, so I'm sure that's.
Well, I think even Chris Hemsworth has talked about like for Thor.
Yeah, they all do it. They all do it.
Yeah. Anytime I take a shirt off, 2 days before I stop drinking water.
2 days.
Yeah, I don't drink water for 2 days, then take my shirt off.
Yeah, it causes a huge headache, but you just down some aspirin.
That's fine. That's fine.
So anyway, Wolverine cameos. Which was your favorite? Because I have a favorite. Which was your favorite of the
montage?
Cameos? Yeah, of the montage. The silly montage that we got. Like, what was your favorite cameo?
I feel like I'm forgetting a lot of them. The fact that through the Age of Apocalypse Wolverine in there, I thought was interesting.
That was I'd say that was my favorite because of seeing the stump and the wild hair and like the stump arm. I thought that was fun. I enjoyed.
Yeah. That was fun.
I enjoyed that. Also, when he first meets him, he's in an 80s pose with like his leg up he's leaning against the wall with one leg up in a super just like 80s super pose. Cool. Yeah.
A super dystopian 90s like dystopian movie.
Yeah. Like, so I enjoyed that one. Yeah.
That was a fun one. I think brown costume because I've always loved the brown.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
That was the brown costume with the reflection of Hulk and Hulk.
The
was
brown
there,
costume
into the tree stump roots, I was like, that was awesome.
That was funny, yeah.
I wish I had more than 2 milliseconds of that brown costume because I'm like, I got both costumes in one movie finally for the first time in 20 years, but like only 2 seconds of that brown costume.
But even the fit of the brown costume seemed to work better. I feel like they should.
Yeah, because it was more like Deadpool. I think it was more like just a smooth. There was texture to it, but it was more like just a tights-esque kind of thing.
Yeah.
This one seems more like padded armor plates and stuff on his costume.
What was your favorite gag or like joke in the movie?
I think to Joe's point, how you would start laughing at something and miss other stuff.
Yeah.
When it's at I guess is it Wade's birthday party when the TVA first shows up and he goes in the hallway to talk to them.
He's talking about pegging.
Yeah, he has like a string of one-liners that was like 7 in a row that I thought were all really hilarious, and I remember the pegging.
The TVA guy like throws the little time vaporizing wand thing out, and it's like that little tip on the end shoots out, and it's like and it's glowing, and he's like, "Whoa!" I don't remember what he says, but he's basically like, "I'm no stranger to pegging, but this is Disney's first time," or something, something along those lines, and I was just like, "That's pretty good."
My favorite gag was before the end fight when Nice Pool dies. That whole gag of when Deadpool was saying like, "Oh, I'm trying to save you," and then Wolverine just deadpan is saying, "Well, you just killed that man." And he's like, "Oh, cause of death was caring too much," and Wolverine goes, "No, the cause of death was you murdering that person." I just thought he deadpanned it so well. That was my favorite gag. That was really funny. The whole let's talk about that whole ending scene. Let me talk about this. Like a prayer for Madonna.
I want to hear what your favorite bit was, Dick.
Oh yeah, Patrick. Yeah, what's your favorite?
He's
Like
I think
favorite
he said-
gag? I mean,
Yeah.
everything Channing Tatum said, and then
That Channing Tatum? Anything Channing Tatum said?
Anything
You guys-
Channing Tatum.
Channing
guys-
Tatum.
Channing Tatum. I've had too much rosé. I
Rosé
kind
all
of
day.
I really love Jennifer Garner, and that one
yeah.
bit about the way she her facial expression when she was dismissive of the Ben Affleck Daredevil. Like, I think that might have been what I
Yeah.
laughed most at, just because it was unexpected. I was like, oh, that's like a very meta comment, because you're commenting on her actual marriage with this man in real life.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Papa.
And the character Daredevil. Yeah, that was.
But it was just
generally-
her whole like expression. She would just like scrunched her face and just like shook her head real fast, like nah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, everything Channing Tatum said was pretty. Oh, and fucking Chris Evans. Like, I wanted to leave the movie theater because I'm so over post credit scenes, but that post-credit
that was
scene,
good.
That was great.
good.
Yeah, when he has like a kind of a New York Bronx accent.
Yeah,
as
he
he's
goes into that
going,
Boston, that Boston accent. That was.
It's New York. It's New York. It's not.
Is it New York? Is it not
It's
Boston?
not Boston.
Yeah,
Trust
he's doing
me.
Johnny Storm.
I live in
Boston.
Bro. If there's one thing Couchers know about me, it's that I live in Boston. I'm Boston.
Do they?
But
Proud.
isn't Chris
Al.
Evans from Boston?
Al, what's your address again?
69 Massachusetts Avenue,
Chris
apartment
Evans is
420.
from Boston, Patty, but Johnny Storm is from New York.
That was a
No way.
very New York accent.
Um,
It was a very. I'm gonna get coffee at the corner store.
Potato,
New York accent. Very. Yeah, one thing New Yorkers always say is potato, potato. You're right.
potato.
Classic New York accent.
I
Um,
don't know if I have a favorite bit. Oh, you know what my favorite bit was? It's with that random guy, the TVA, that he was like, "You love me." I don't know what.
Oh
it was.
yeah,
but it
yeah.
kept kind of going, and like he had the mug later, and like I don't know. There's just like I had made no sense. They just like tucked it in quietly. I laugh at that stuff. Like I love all the jokes and the one-liners and stuff, but like my favorite jokes are always the sneaky little.
Wasn't there a scene with
just
that
sweeping
guy?
under the rug kind of jokes that are off to the side that most people don't really laugh at on me. But what were you saying?
Isn't there a scene with that guy later where like Hugh Jackman's shirtless body is like flying over him or something? I forget. They come back to it again. It's pretty great.
Yeah.
Well,
I forgot about that.
another TVA scene I liked was when he gets his new costume. They do a montage of him putting it
was
on, kind of
funny.
like Batman, and they keep doing these quick cuts to like him getting his ass slapped, just
Yeah.
like over and over.
And, like tucking his pant leg up in between his
But just
crotch,
like over and over, grabbing his dick and slapping his ass. And I just thought it was. And then after he comes in and says, like,
And when he
your
comes out, he's
Taylor's.
like,
Your Taylor's a sex
freaking horny.
offender, but he's
Yeah,
great.
sex
Yeah,
offender.
he's like he's a sex offender, but
yeah,
he's
that
great.
whole bit. Well, that rolled right into
Yeah.
him going like, "I love his mug. I like me hard." So,
Yeah.
like that's hilarious. But like that guy was so weirdly like just in the back. It's like when Tony Stark was like, "That man's playing Galaga." Tried to pretend he wasn't, but we all know he was, or something like that. Like it's like one of my favorite bit, and the guy's like actually playing Galaga. He's like moves his screens like that. Like I fucking love that shit. Like just the like dumb, weird little jokes that are like that was such an aside, but I don't know. Those are my favorite bits. Like I love all the real, actual one-liners and jokes and stuff, but like those little bits. Are
Also, when I already mentioned it, but when they have the helmet on Cassandra Nova and Deadpool's like, "Why are you like this?"
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, that was
great.
great. That was great. I don't know.
That was
All right.
All right, so
Shifting from that.
before Al, real quick though, before we get to the end fight, let's talk about Wolverine versus Deadpool throughout the movie. And there's only 4 instances of it. One is the cameos, which we already kind of talked about, but like the van fight, the void fight, the van fight.
Well, the void fight to AC/DC's Hell's Bells. Thank you. That was pretty.
Yes,
That was great.
I fucking love this fight. I love the little fox with the X sticking out. You know, do you guys remember when the fox would come up for an X-Men movie? It would stay like lit like for like an extra second, like as the Fox logo faded to black. Like,
Yeah,
the X
on
would
the
come
edge.
out.
Yeah.
And I always like loved that, and I was like, I love that the X is sticking out of the ground, and it doesn't make any sense, like logistically, like why would that exist in the void? And like the whole thing is meta in and of itself. But I loved this fight. I thought it was fantastic. Like he chucks him through the wall, and like he hits the sign, and just vicious as shit. But it ends with that like lead up to Sabretooth arriving, And before they fight, he's like, "Oh, people have been waiting for this." He's like, "Hold on, you look like an
And he
idiot."
takes out
He's
the
pulling his
swords. Yeah,
out.
that
I
was
love
great.
that part. Like, just that whole fight. That fight was great.
Well, I like the part where Wolverine slams him on the ground and Deadpool's kind of wrapped around him and just shoots him in the side 50 times. Like it was brutal. It was just brutal and awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was great.
I thought the humor in general, they did a good job of the humor was very widespread. I think it captured most audiences would have laughed at the same bits. I think it wasn't really political per se, but it really just like was very central, where I feel like the Comicsgate crowd would have been able to watch this movie and not feel offended over wokeism or anything, even though there were plenty of woke characters.
I don't think so, Patrick. The whole movie is an allegory for voting for RFK Jr. I think you just didn't look close enough, but yeah. Cassandra Nova is the brainworm that RFK Jr. has. You know, it's all in there. If you look close enough, it's all in there.
Those fingers.
It's weird. After this movie, I just started Googling RFK Jr. afterwards to see what his policy.
And Googling how can I vote for RFK Jr.? Is he on my ballot?
So the subliminal
it's weird.
messaging worked.
It was definitely there.
It works on lesser minds. Am I right, Al?
Yeah.
Kennedy, man.
You know.
The
I'm not
van
arguing
fight.
Yeah, the van fight.
When the van fight started, my initial reaction was, "Oh, it's going to be gimmicky. Oh, I'm over it." But then it got so fucking brutal that it won me over. Just when the blood splatter is everywhere and they're just really murdering each other. It was great.
The shot of him popping up out of the top of the van and like, I love that fucking bit.
Yeah. Also, the crouched Wolverine that you have it on the bottom right there, but crouched Wolverine with that out is just classic. Yeah.
But again, this fight was it was one of those like, they're just getting like, there's no real stakes here, but it's so fun.
There aren't stakes. It's just gore. It's just violence and gore. There's no.
But after this fight was like so kind of epic that I thought it was a safe time to go to the bathroom without missing anything.
And then you missed Electra.
I missed all of the intros. It's like, God damn it!
I love the end of this fight. Was like Deadpool's just wrapped in like 1,000 seatbelts, and Wolverine was just like on the. They're both like laying down in the van, like going up like a above shot kind of thing. Fucking good. That was
all right. Now let's talk about the last fight.
All right. Sorry.
Okay. I just want to make a quick side note. Madonna's "Like a Prayer" off of the 1989 album "Like a Prayer," all-time pop song, just all-time, incredible. I mean, the synth beat. It's just everything a pop song should be.
Outside of the pop genre, it's like one of the best songs.
It's
ever.
It's incredible. It's incredible.
I loved the Wonder down the street. That like they even go through the butt. Like I thought it was great. There was a point where a dead body of Deadpool like flew forward and like hit the ground, and I thought it was him. And then because he had been off screen for so long, and Wolverine was like cutting through people, and a dead body of Deadpool like fell forward onto the street. And I was expecting him to like get up and like keep fighting because it was like the Deadpool, and it wasn't. And like it just laid there, and then he came back on screen. I was like, God damn, this is good because the camera just kept moving.
It's just a tracking shot of them brutalizing these other Deadpools. And I know I mentioned this before, but just seeing Wolverine do it, just getting shot and like just stabbing people. It's just this is what Wolverine should have always been.
Wolverine's like, he's like, "Are you ready?" And Wolverine's like, "Killing 100 of you? Yeah, absolutely." Yeah.
Did we mention the storefront of Rob Liefeld's Just Feet?
No, we didn't.
Yeah. That was funny.
That's their, the tracking shot begins at them at that storefront.
Mm-hmm.
And then Wolverine pulls over his cowl and we get to finally see the Wolverine mask. And then they just brutalize 100 people. It's just amazing. It's just amazing. I loved it.
Yeah. I know we've talked about not being like huge fans of Wolverine on our podcast before, but I'm also not like a huge fan of Deadpool. Like I find him kind of tiresome.
Oh, I've never read a Deadpool comic in my lifetime.
But I truly like these movies, like in the sense that like, and maybe it works better in film than it does in the comics. Like him breaking the fourth wall in the comic all the time is like, it's funny and cute, I guess. But like, and I've never really dove deep into like a Deadpool series for a very long. I've only like dipped in and dipped out kind of thing, and just been like, oh, I'll read it for a little while, and then I'm like, yeah, this character. I've never really truly understood people's obsession with this character. Just the same way I don't really truly understand people's obsession with Wolverine, kind of thing. Yeah. So like I don't know, I like this to me, but for some reason it just works. The Ryan Reynolds cast in this character maybe is perfect. I don't know.
Yes,
but like,
I think that
it just works on screen better than in the comic almost. I truly enjoy this movie. And that end scene was just a perfect conglomeration of all those things.
Yeah, I think Ryan Reynolds plays the character so well. He's so likable and funny that I've never really read a Deadpool comic, but he's features in a lot of X-Men comics I've read, and you can't help but read all of his lines in the same like diction and tone as Ryan Reynolds' voice, and it adds to the humor. And there are some issues where I think he was on X-Force for a while when they were just murdering people, and I think one of their missions was to murder the reincarnation of Apocalypse, who was a child, and Deadpool was against it, and there was some heart to the character. I think the movies have enhanced the comic book counterpart, which I think is
I agree.
Kind of rare. The fact that it would have
that
a positive
is a rare thing, I think.
Yeah.
You know?
But also, but so we also meet lots of different versions of Deadpool. Like there's Nice Pool that we've alluded to, who dies because he doesn't have a regeneration factor. Yeah, I love that gag.
I loved when he was like, there's a whole lot more of me. Don't run into them. Like way early in the movie, that was great. Like,
right. And then Cassandra Nova summons all the Deadpools to kind of stymie them so that she can end the universe, basically. Mm-hmm. Do you all know who played Lady Deadpool?
Blake Lively.
Blake Lively, yeah. She played Lady Deadpool. Also, Dogpool is actually the ugliest dog in Britain.
Agents. Do you know that? What'd you
say? I did
know. Yeah, I did know that.
I think Rob Delaney, didn't he originally have a bigger role as like either a variant of Wolverine or a variant of Deadpool?
Oh, I don't know. Did he?
I think it got cut, and then he was like a TVA agent that you didn't.
You mean Rob McElhenney? Not Rob Delaney. You mean Rob McElhenney.
Not Rob Delaney, Rob McElhenney. Gosh.
Patrick, your mind's just on Rob Delaney. Look at you.
Can't help it. I can't help it. That's,
I think it's because Rob McElhenney and Ryan Reynolds own Wrexham together, and so they're friends.
Yeah, of course.
I would have loved to see a D. Reynolds variant of Deadpool. That would have been
that would have been great. Well,
that would be incredible.
Blake made sense. I know.
What if Lady Deadpool was D, or what if there was an ostrich D as Lady Deadpool? That would be.
That would have been
pretty great.
Dogpool
is Britain's ugliest dog. He's a real dog, or she.
He is a real dog.
I can't remember,
but
he's a real dog,
or she. I don't know. It is a real dog.
That was a funny. Actually, one of the funniest bits. One of the funniest bits to me is when he's holding the dog the first time, and he keeps licking, like they keep licking each other.
Mask off. Yeah.
I was like, that was pretty.
Mask off, and it's just licking his face and getting in his mouth, and he's just he's licking back, and I'm like, this is so.
I also liked when all the other Deadpool variants are shooting at Wolverine, and he just lifts the dog up, and they all stop, and they're like, "Oh no, not the dog!" I just like how they all equally love that dog. That was funny.
That's what I just I will definitely rewatch this movie because there's so much I don't remember because it was just kind of gag after gag. But
most of the variants kind of got lost. I mean, there was a huge crowd of them, but like
there was cowboy, there was samurai, there was baby Deadpool.
The cowboy one was Matthew McConaughey.
What?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It might have just been his voice, but they said it was Matthew McConaughey. Like when it spoke, it was Matthew McConaughey. I don't know if it was actually him. But Patty, did you hear like everyone thought Lady Deadpool was going to be Taylor Swift?
Well, there was a bit,
No, she was going to be Dazzler. She wasn't going to be. Right. She was going to be Dazzler.
Or Lady. Really? No, they were. Everyone's.
No, it wasn't real. It was a smokescreen rumor.
Dazzler or Lady Deadpool.
Yeah, it was a smokescreen rumor that Taylor Swift was going to be Dazzler.
It was funny because Taylor Swift,
That
I
would've
think,
been cool.
posted on her Instagram like to go see the movie, and someone screenshotted it and tweeted it, and they were like, they definitely paid her a lot of money to do this. Like,
Probably, yeah.
even though they're like best friends, they're like they had to have paid her so much money to do this.
I'm sure Taylor Swift has a lot of friends. I don't think she does anything for free. I think she is
probably
a money-making machine.
Yeah,
that just makes money.
That tracks.
Also, on the note of Blake, I saw a TikTok from her that was like, it was like proof that you're married to Deadpool and you're a millennial or something, and then it had like cuts of all the songs that were like we've mentioned many times, and I was just like, interesting. And it was just kind of a nice little like a cute little joke.
Another thing about kind of after the fight scene, the way they save the world, I just want to say, I know this was kind of telegraphed that it would happen, but I did like that it was both of them together.
No,
holding hands.
When
because they
shut
set
the
it
door
up.
on him, I was like, classic. Of course, he's gonna stop Wolverine from sacrificing himself and
But then Wolverine busted through, like, because the setup is Paradox, he's
trying to pull the cords, and I'm like, he can't get over that. And then I'm like, oh,
yeah.
Still like
but the setup is
2 seconds before Wolverine grabs his hand. I'm like, oh.
But Paradox from Succession, basically says whoever connects the antimatter will die. It's gonna kill them, in the process. Yeah. So Wolverine says, "Let me do this." If he sacrificed myself, and Deadpool's like, "Okay," but then Deadpool knocks Wolverine out of the way, goes in, closes the door, and acts like he's going to do it on his own. Yeah. And then Wolverine bursts down the door, and they grab hands, and one person grabs one tube, the other the other. And that was cool. That was fun. And also, Madonna's Like a Prayer is still playing.
That they would both still die. And at the end, when they both walk out, and they're like, yeah, it was both of us. One of us, sure, we would die, but both of us?
Yeah, why not? Again, don't ask questions.
I love that, just dismissing away the fact that it would obliterate them was very funny to me.
And again, Like a Prayer is still playing as they hold hands and they do that. And that's when we talked about it earlier, but when Wolverine's costume blasts off, and actually there's a part where Deadpool leans over to check out his abs.
I was gonna say, that went viral, and everyone was talking about like how the detail of the detail of the hair on his happy trail, and how he must have a really big bush and hairy balls. That was, I don't know what y'all's Twitter algorithm feeds you, but that's what I was getting.
Not that. Mine, unfortunately, doesn't give me that. I get a lot of U.S. rugby team content.
Interesting.
Oh man, my TikTok's been filled up with U.S. rugby team. Everyone I don't know her name. She's a beast. Anyway.
But so they do that, and then that stops Cassandra Nova's plan to destroy the world, and she kind of dissolves, but in a way that who knows, maybe she'll be back or not. Who knows? The aftermath. All right, what else? Snyder Zeus scale. So we've already talked about Hugh Jackman's body. He's kind of the only one on the Snyder Zeus scale in this, right? No one else
is ripped.
What's
not so
well,
much
you don't really.
You don't.
You don't.
Ryan Reynolds, you never see him outside of costume, so you don't know.
Yeah. What's wild is Hugh Jackman is in crazy shape in this movie, but I bet if you were to stand him next to Snyder Zeus, Snyder Zeus is so insanely huge.
He's on the scale, though, Pat.
He's insane. Yeah,
he's think on Hugh the scale. He's definitely on the scale. I'm just saying. You look at Hugh Jackman.
All right, well, Snyder Zeus
that guy
10.
is.
Would you realistically put Hugh Jackman at 4?
5 tops.
Maybe I'd say 4 or 5.
I was saying 4. I was thinking maybe 3, but 4.
No, I'd say 4 or 5. But the thing about Snyder Zeus is also his musculature is like super jagged. It's like jagged. It's real lean and jagged.
You know what? We need to have I need to make some sort of graphic so we can remind ourselves what Snyder Zeus looks like every single time.
That's true, because we have gotten TikTok comments of people asking what the Snyder Zeus scale is.
And YouTube comments of like, what's the Snyder Zeus scale? And we're like, listen, you have to see that. Dude.
You gotta start.
It doesn't make any human sense.
You've got to see that guy. But Hugh Jackman's really the only one who's kind of bearing it enough to register on the scale.
I wonder if Ryan got like ripped.
Or I guess Rob Delaney. Rob Delaney takes his shirt off. Is he on the Snyder Zeus scale?
Rob Delaney takes his shirt off?
Yeah, he's got the
I mean, he's
nipple
got the
rings.
nipple-
He's
Oh
got the
yeah.
nipple-
That's right. I was too focused on the nipple rings. I just kind of blacked
Dude,
out.
no.
He's got a black-
Patrick, listeners, please. We're sorry, but Patrick is still processing just the sight of Rob Delaney. He's still trying to wrap his head around it.
Damn.
It was so
Um,
I like
much.
how they never didn't Rob Delaney die in Deadpool 2?
That
when
was
Deadpool goes
yeah.
back in time at the end and he's doing all those things, he's like, "Go home right now! Go home, Peter!" And he's like yelling at him,
right.
and he like
Yeah.
has him leave.
Yeah.
So he doesn't get hit by the car.
Another interesting pre-production note. Before this movie came out, in an interview, Zazie Beetz played Domino,
Oh yeah.
and she made a comment to this. I'm paraphrasing, but she said something like, "I can't imagine me not being in Deadpool 3."
Ah.
I was actually
Ouch.
kind of sad she wasn't.
Yeah, she was
Ouch.
great in Deadpool 2.
What basically how Patrick has reacted to Rob Delaney in Deadpool 3 is how I reacted to Zazie Beetz in Deadpool 2. I'm still
Well, I
trying
get
to
it because
process it.
I was kind of obsessed with her. I was obsessed. I am obsessed with her in that movie. Present.
She's
Tense.
great. I
she's
just don't
great.
remember.
But anyway, I just thought it was funny that she had this line of "I'm definitely going to be in the sequel," and then
Oh, that's sad.
not so much.
I was
It
kinda
would've been
missing-
cool to
not-
have
not
just,
that I
like-
wanted Cable or her to come back, but I was kind of missing them in this movie.
I didn't
A little
mind
bit.
not having Cable, but I think her dynamic of her character would have worked well. I know it's all about the buddy cop and that's the genre, but
She should
if
have
it
just
was
been
a-
in the party.
if it
scene,
was a
though.
trio or whatever.
you know, like in
Yeah,
the
even
beginning,
just in the
like,
party
hanging out
scene,
with them.
sure,
and,
yeah,
or
why
in the
not?
beginning and or the end, and just
Yeah.
hanging out with them.
yeah.
I will say, the Logan movie is heartbreaking towards the end, and it's the father-daughter aspect of that, of course, that gets me. And then this movie, when he's like, "Logan, just come back to my house," and like he's hanging out with Laura at the table, I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
yeah."
But
That
you don't see Electra
it's.
Gambit
I only
or
need a
Blade.
second of them like
Nope.
kind of bonding at the dinner table.
You
or
don't see
whatever.
them,
So
but
they
we're
all-
led to believe that maybe they survived in some. Who knows?
No, he's talking to her at the table.
Well, she definitely survived, but Gambit,
No, but I mean Gambit, Electra, and Blade.
Oh no, you don't see that.
Nice. I don't know.
Do you all?
That's good. That's what I was gonna say. But of those characters, like when they face off at the end and that fight happens, the one thing that I like wanted more of was her just tearing through dudes. Like I just
Yeah,
like,
you didn't get
like,
a lot of
She's
it.
kind of more vicious than Wolverine.
I mean, she
in
took
ways.
down a juggernaut.
She did a lot, but not nearly enough. Of like I'm just gonna cut through like 30 dudes and then get to Juggernaut. Like
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, just like I just
Also, in
I wanna see her
X3, the original X3, Vinnie Jones played Juggernaut, but he did not.
Yeah, I wish he had come
reprise
back.
it.
I know.
Well, he's probably
I know
not
he's
really in
older.
shape to.
Well, that it wasn't
Also-
fake muscles to begin with. It's not like he wore those were.
But he might
real.
be bigger. He might be like bigger.
Well, then just make the muscles bigger. That's another thing. Like, was it weird that they chose that Juggernaut versus the Juggernaut that was in X2?
Well, because this
that-
is the Fox. Yeah, well, sorry, go ahead.
Well, yeah, it's the Fox Juggernaut, and then
yeah,
I
but you
think-
could have made it that Juggernaut.
But I was going to
Hmm.
say the guy who plays Juggernaut in this movie, I think, is the stuntman who played the large version of Ryan Reynolds in that weird. Free
Oh, in that
Guy.
Free Guy
Free
movie?
Guy.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
By the way, Sean Levy, who directed Free Guy, directed Deadpool 3.
Oh,
Interesting
okay.
side note: all three Deadpool movies have had different directors.
that's weird.
Interesting.
So
yeah, I
Tim
remember
Miller,
the first
yeah,
guy not coming back because him and Ryan Reynolds.
him
were
and Ryan
looking-
Reynolds didn't get along, and he directed.
not
Yeah, he
getting
directed
along,
Deadpool
but not
1.
getting along necessarily, but creative differences, as they say.
Well, I think that means they didn't get along. Yeah, and then Deadpool
Well, I mean,
2
they might
had a
just have different
separate
ideas
director.
of the direction of the film or whatever. But
Yeah, and then Deadpool 2 had a separate director, and then Deadpool 3 is Sean Levy.
interesting.
Curious.
That's interesting because so that means Ryan Reynolds must be really in control of like the creative aspect of these.
Well,
movies,
he's
'cause they
he's
don't
a
feel
parent.
disparate. They feel the same.
Well,
For the most part.
So Ryan Reynolds, again, this is all things I don't know the man personally. These are all things I've read. Apparently, he's like a multi-billionaire because he does all these side hustles. But then B, he's apparently very much like one of those work 24
Billionaire?
hours a day, grindcore, I work all the time sort of hustle culture people.
Yeah.
So he seems like he'd be pretty controlling on,
Yeah.
movies he's on, that kind of thing. So he
That
maybe
tracks
needs.
because I've watched all of the Wrexham stuff and he seems pretty. obsessed with
So,
everything.
Yeah,
he's doing.
I think he's one of those people who just sleeps 4 hours a day and just is like
Yeah.
hyper controlling and into all this stuff. Yeah.
He's worth, as himself, he's worth 350 million.
That's nothing.
Well, his companies are worth 14 billion.
Well, what percentage of the companies does he own? I mean, he might be.
I don't know. That's just what Forbes says. But
Okay.
it says, but Forbes recently reported the companies he owns or has sold are or were worth roughly 14 billion. That means
Okay, so it's probably made up. Yeah, it's probably.
Yeah, that's just a random number.
But I mean, I didn't mean to harp on his net worth, but I just mean I've read that he's one of those people who just basically works 24/7 and is like a super hustle
right
culture guy.
like
not
the
that he's
kind of
not.
the same person that would randomly buy a soccer team with Rob McElhenney. You know? What I mean?
Yeah. Well, Rob is. I can see him being the same. There. Fucking. Did y'all see that? What was it? It was like a panel, and Glenn Howerton was there, and they asked Rob a question about Ryan Reynolds, and he goes into how much he loves Ryan Reynolds, and Glenn's face like drops. It's like pure.
That.
It's like pure Dennis. I need to find it.
He's like,
it was
I've heard this too many
fantastic.
times, or is it?
Yeah.
Like,
Is it like those Justice League or Batman v Superman clips where Henry Cavill's talking and Ben Affleck just looks like he wants to die?
He's
To the
just
side? Is it?
Hello,
It's more like he's like, I don't know. It's like a Dennis jealousy thing almost. Like,
Oh, okay.
Like Rob is the one who's really made it big, and Glenn like maybe has potentially peaked with Always Sunny. I don't.
Well, Glenn Howerton should have worked out to get super ripped and then buy a football team because it worked
He
for
should
Rob
have gotten
McElhenney.
hugely fat for the show for Sunny, and then like, and then boiled it down.
And then super in shape and then bought a football. It worked for Rob McElhenney. Why not?
Yeah,
for Glenn Howerton.
McElhenney, you know, and just randomly DM.
Anyway, we're way off track, but I just meant to say that whole thing with
Hugh Jackman.
directors, it seems like Ryan Reynolds is sort of a controlling type of person.
Yeah.
Well, he seems very protective of this IP in particular of Deadpool.
Yeah.
Well,
I
it's probably the X-Men Origins Wolverine experience probably scarred him in the sense of
I absolutely think that's what happened.
I
think
need
he
to
did
do this
that, and then he
character
was
my
like,
way.
This is the worst thing that's ever happened. Everyone hated it, and I'm going to make it right. And it was almost out of stubbornness that he made Deadpool 1. I mean, like, he leaked the fucking footage that made it go viral that everyone wanted to see this in the first place.
Well, unconfirmed, but yeah, probably.
He's basically said he did it. he's like, I assisted in it. I mean, he basically did it.
Yeah.
It's like he gave it to, it's like me giving it to Patty and then Patty putting it on the internet. It wasn't, it's not a long trail back to Ryan.
And for those, if any listeners haven't seen X-Men Origins Wolverine, that Deadpool is it's just a mess. He's this like experiment of all the X-Men powers, and they took his mouth away, and he has Cyclops beams. He can teleport like Nightcrawler. He inexplicably has katana Wolverine claws that are longer than his forearm and somehow retract in and out.
Yeah.
Like in a non-physiologically possible way.
Damn. How bad was that? That was a really bad.
It was a bad
sense. Physiology. He just has to keep his arms straight when they're
in.
in.
He can't bend his right. If he could keep his arms totally straight, then he could retract.
If they're out, he can bend his hands.
Yeah.
But if they're in, his arms are straight.
Anyway, that interpretation was a mess. So I can see how maybe that would make Ryan Reynolds really defensive about this IP moving forward. Of like, I just need
for the first one, but like maybe relax.
You don't, bro. If you're about the hustle and the grindcore, you don't relax.
If his control freak is what made 1, 2, and 3 with different directors and possibly writers, I don't know.
I also want to mention,
carry forward through 3 films, then he's probably right.
I also want to mention on a private note, this man has dated Canadian icon Alanis Morissette.
That's wild. I was thinking about that earlier today. I was like, fucking Alanis Morissette.
Alanis Morissette, Canadian icon.
They almost got married, I think.
He's also dated Charlize Theron. He's married Scarlett Johansson. He dated Rachel Lee Cook back in the She's All That heyday.
I don't remember.
He's married to Blake Lively. This dude's body count is A-list. Like, it's pretty insane.
I mean,
Him and
he's
Scarlett Johansson.
he's been like the most handsome man in the world.
I think they were
like,
married. I think they were
like
actually
5
married
times, right?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Or however many.
Joe, can you
What is
repeat that? I'm getting feedback in my
Hold on a second. Let me check
my
the
audio.
levels.
Do you hear that sort of?
Click, click,
Does
click,
this
click,
pass
click.
the Bechdel
The
test? The Bechdel test. The Bechdel test.
Bechdel test.
Does this pass the Bechdel
The
test?
Bechdel
The
test,
answer's
the
probably
answer's probably
no.
no.
This one does, unless, well, if Wolverine and Deadpool were women, it would pass.
Yeah.
If it was a gender bend,
It doesn't pass though. The movie we get does not pass.
no.
There's no rule we can skirt around. I mean, it just can't. It does not pass in
Nothing
in any way.
Yeah, it really doesn't.
It did make me think about though Deadpool's roommate, the older blind.
Oh,
black
she's
woman
lovely.
That's addicted to
I love her.
cocaine. She had some great moments. That was the fact she was like obsessed with cocaine. I don't remember that from the previous movies, but
Oh yeah,
I think
that's
it was
one of the
in
things.
1 and 2. Yeah.
Yeah, it's in 1 and 2. Yeah.
Maybe
And I think it's subtle in 1, and they like joke about it heavily in 2. And he's like, "I have a kilo of cocaine hidden under the floorboards next to the cure for blindness," and then he literally like opens a floorboard later and like takes out cocaine and gets like a gun. And like, there's literally a vial that says "cure for blindness" next to it, or something. Like, at some point, there's a floorboard that's opened up, and it literally has all the things that he was joking about with her. And like,
And her name is actually Blind. Her canon name is Blind Al. In the,
yeah, I love it when he said "Blind Al" to Wolverine.
and played by Leslie Uggams.
And he's like,
is the
"Why do you call her Blind Al?" And he goes, "'Cause she's blind."
Yeah.
One of my favorite. That's like there's like an old Royal Tenenbaums joke from that Wes Anderson movie where like Royal would introduce like Gwyneth Paltrow as, "This is my adopted daughter, Margot Tenenbaum." Like every time he'd be like, "This is my son," like, you know, whatever, Chazzy, and then he'd be like, "This is my adopted daughter." He always said adopted before he just, and I fucking like loved that line so much. You know, but that just like, why do you call her Blind Al? Because she's blind. Like it's just like, it's so matter of fact. Like, I'm just stating a fact. Like, what's your problem? I don't know. Really funny. I love that sense of humor. Well, recommendations?
I wish there was more Yukio. I liked her.
Oh, I love Yukio.
Oh yeah, Negasonic Warhead's girlfriend.
This third one is kind of a departure from like 1 and 2 in the sense that
because it's just
it goes like into the void and it's crazy and there's all these cameos and stuff. But like, well, one, I liked that because like if they had focused on the Vanessa relationship, and I don't mind that was a piece of the movie because it should be, but like, I like that he needed to go do something else to redeem her by the end, redeem himself in her eyes by the end of the movie.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
I do.
It wasn't about her; it was about his relationship with Logan. But like, I like that was at least a piece of the plot. You know, like,
it did seem like part of the plot was he needs to define himself not only by his romance, but as who he is. You know, when he interviewed for the Avengers, he basically kept saying, "I'm doing this for Vanessa. I'm doing this for her, so I can be someone she wants." So I guess there's a little bit of subtext of like, this is a journey for Deadpool to figure out who he is on his own. Having said that, Vanessa looked great in this. Marina Baccarat, she looked great.
Baccarat, or however you say it. She's fantastic.
Baccarat is what James Bond plays in Casino Royale. Marina Baccarat, I think is her name.
I said Ron, not Rod.
Baccarat.
She looks great.
She's
with Ryan Atwood. She landed Ryan Atwood.
I think so. Yeah, in real life, yes. In real life, yes. Ben McKenzie is his name and not in the OC. Yeah.
There's no such thing as not in the OC.
It's Ryan
that's
Atwood.
True. You're correct.
To me and Patrick, Al.
Yeah.
It's just Ryan Atwood.
Actually, of the three of us, I think I'm the only one who's read the oral history of the OC, which just came out this year. So
that is.
Hate to flex.
I don't know if it's insane.
Hate to flex
I just
with
feel like
that,
I haven't gotten there yet. But
I mean, this is
my
really,
original joke was like, did they have the audio version of the oral history of the OC? Because I would.
I'm sure they do. I'm sure it's available. Probably.
But is it all of them saying their parts? Because that would be the best. like a weird audio history of them reading.
And she looks great. I mean, my only complaint about Vanessa is I don't think she could murder me between her thighs. Like,
probably not.
No, but are you kidding? No, yeah. Marina's great.
No.
That's the only negative. But she looks great. She looks great.
Looks good. Looks good.
All right. I'll go first. Recommend. So I recommend it with the asterisk of you have to know what you're going into. I mean, it's a broad comedy about Deadpool, and it's not serious, and there's no plot. Mm-hmm. If you understand that and are fine with that, I recommend it. I loved it. I had a ton of fun. Honestly, I think it's the best Marvel movie like recently, because they've been trash recently. Even though this had nothing to do with Marvel, really, in any way. Mm-hmm. So I recommend it, but again, just understand
the TVA was loosely there.
Yeah, but so I recommend it, but understand it is a unserious movie that means nothing and has no purpose. And if you're okay with that, I recommend it.
Okay.
I also recommend it, and I mean, total same page as Al. I don't know the critics that were like saying how awful this movie was, and I don't know what their expectation was. If you enjoyed the trailer for this movie, you'll enjoy the movie. Like, it's exactly what I thought it was going to be. It's just pure chaos and TVA and variance and different dimensions, and the whole thing is just insane fight scenes, humor, and the dynamic between Wolverine and Deadpool. Like, that's what you're getting. It's not like a traditional movie with a character grow. I mean, I guess there are characters that grow, but like it's just
no one really.
It's like fan service. It's just fanfare.
No, again, Wolverine did the same. It was Logan Part 2. Is the same exact plot from.
It's the same arc. Yeah, it's the same arc from Logan.
Yeah. I would recommend it also. It's definitely worth watching. It's super fun. It's Deadpool 3. Somebody asked me at work and they hadn't seen it. They're like, "Hey, how'd you like it?" I was like, I think it's very clear as like this like piece of the Marvel universe, the MCU, that's like some maybe going to open doors up into new mutant movies. This is not that. But just Deadpool 3, it's great. You know, like if you go in thinking this is going to be like some like large piece of the MCU that's going to like open doors, and the post-credit scene is going to be like, oh fuck, the X-Men are back, or something, or like, just if you're going in with the right mindset, it's fantastic. If you go in thinking it's going to be this piece of the MCU, kind of like the Flash movie was supposed to be like the birth of the DCU or whatever, like kind of like the end of the DCEU and the beginning of the DC, like it's just not that. But I think, like as a Deadpool movie, I think it's fantastic. It's a really great Deadpool 3. I don't think it's like, I don't know, adding something to the MCU that we didn't already have. It's just Deadpool playing in the MCU's playground.
Yeah,
which I think was very fun, and I loved it. But like, it was, you know, like, I think that's all the only reason why I'm like middle of the road on that, you know, on this movie in general. It's like out of 5, I'd be like 3.5, 4. You know, like I wouldn't be like, it's a 5, it's amazing.
Yeah, no, it's like a B. Yeah, a B or a B- or something. It's not. But another thing that I'll say though, that I didn't tear up as overselling it, but I did enjoy the credit scenes with the kind of "I Will Remember You" song and the behind the scenes.
Yeah. That was cute.
Footage.
It really was like a love letter and an homage to what the
Fox X-Men universe
was.
Yeah,
and there was a lot of not great movies in the Fox universe. So like, you know, there is some of those cameos in this film, like that shitty Juggernaut instead of the awesome Juggernaut we got in Deadpool 2. You know, I don't know. It's just little.
But I liked that one behind the scenes.
It's fun in ways, and but it's paying homage to, like, I think it did a good job in that respect. You know, it took those some of the sillier elements, like Ray Park came back to play Toad, for instance.
Oh yeah,
in the movie for like 2 seconds. You know,
they also I was surprised, but in that little those credit scenes, they referenced Josh Trank's Fantastic Four movie.
Yeah.
Which surprised me because
honestly, one of the worst movies I've ever fucking seen.
Ever made. Yeah.
Like fucking awful movie. Wow. Like,
ever made.
You mean Fan-Fortastic?
Fan-Fortastic, yeah. It was awful, period.
God damn. Like, fuck.
But that one interview they showed.
Fantastic.
I think it was fantastic. Yeah, the 4 was in the second A of fantastic. But the interview they showed of young Hugh Jackman talking about his first day on set was really sweet. Kind of. I mean, it was touching to see the kind of behind the scenes. And the first class, McAvoy and Fassbender, the first class cast as well. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Before we end, one quick note: did either of you read Wolverine and Deadpool, the comic?
No.
Didn't know there was a comic called Wolverine.
There was a Wolverine and Deadpool comic published by Panini Comics, which is the UK reprint of Marvel.
Oh.
And they did a limited series called Wolverine and Deadpool.
Again, I'm not a very I'll dip into some Wolverine outside of just an X-Men book, but very rarely. Deadpool, more rarely than that. So very little Deadpool has been read.
There's something hard. It's hard for me to disconnect comic book Deadpool from Rob Liefeld. And
mostly my Deadpool.
Well, Rob Liefeld created
stuff was
comic
Ed
book
McGuinness,
Deadpool.
and think was Wade.
Yeah, I think.
But Ed McGuinness was definitely drawing it.
I think the film Ryan Reynolds really. I see Ryan Reynolds Deadpool, and then in comics, I'm like, this is that shitty character that
it's Rob Liefeld.
Yeah. You know what Deadpool I really did like, but again, he was like a side character. It was when it was in the X-Force book where they were all wearing the black and gray.
Yes, yeah, that was
He was great in that, and I really liked Deadpool in that. But he was kind of like a side. He was like a side character to the main team. Yeah. He was just there for the most part. And in Deadpool 2, I really liked the joke homage to that when he got blasted in the face and his costume was all gray instead of red for the rest of the movie. I was that's kind of a cute little nod to that costume that he wore.
But back to the comics. So Rob Liefeld created Deadpool, but he wasn't the fourth wall breaking comedian for several years.
He was
the original Deadpool. Well, he was literally a pastiche of Slade Wilson Deathstroke, who fought the Teen Titans. Rob Liefeld made Wade Wilson Deadpool, who fought the New Mutants. He was literally a transposed Deathstroke.
He was a one-for-one ripoff with a Spider-Man costume.
Yeah.
Everything
basically.
I know about Rob Liefeld is just very sleazy, and he just seems like one of those people that
steals and he's trash.
Yeah, he's failed upward.
Well. Somehow he's fat. And somehow I don't understand.
I don't know. Don't get it. Anywho, the movie's good though.
Yeah, movie was great.
Yeah.
All right. We all recommend it. I think that's it. I think we're done.
Yeah, I think we're done. I think we've.
Oh wait, before we're done, if you haven't already subscribed to our YouTube channel and our TikTok and our Instagram,
hit like
and on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify, subscribe to Mobius Couch everywhere because we have many more episodes.
We won comics for the week, but in this case, it was comic movie.
We did it.
Good journey, couchers, and don't fuck your couch because that's weird. Don't do that.
Like that.